And we are live. Hi, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome to another episode of Moms, the number four Trans Kids podcast. For those of you who have been following us, thank you all so much. We usually go live on Facebook, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, and on YouTube. And so, if anybody is joining us and you have questions, today we have not one, two, or three, but four moms in total plus me. So five moms. Once we get Laurie back on stage with her mic, we have five moms, I promise you. And we're all mothers of trans kids at various stages and ages of loving and affirming our kids. So please come with all your questions. Don't be shy. However, if you come with hate, I will match your hate. Yes, my name is not Michelle, and we're not going to go low. But that said, welcome to the show, Melissa, Kimmy, Ellen, and hopefully Laurie. Everyone, take a moment to tell us who you are and why do you decide to do this thing with Dr. Lulu every Sunday when you could be doing anything. Kimmy, go first, because you know.
Hey, I'm so excited. We're growing. The
Yes.
network is growing. I mean, it is so good to see moms really feeling comfortable and joining us in, our enthusiasm for having the babies that we have. I mean, I have two of them, and I'm very proud of them. My oldest is 23 this week, and my youngest is 17, and I'm super proud of both of them. We ran through the whole journey of, finding out who they were attracted to, who they were physically, emotionally, spiritually, and we're still on the journey. We'll talk about more on the way, but that's who I am. I'm a mom. I love my kids unconditionally.
I love it so much. And I like that you mentioned unconditionally. Not that anybody here has conditions, but one of the things I wanted us to talk about today, in addition to saying happy birthday to President Obama, my president, is that there is this energy that usually kind of is in the space when moms find out that their kids are indeed transgender. So hopefully we'll talk about that today. Just how do we move forward? How do we face ourselves? How do we face other people? How do we face the world as mothers who love their kids and these people are coming for us? How do you do it? So to join us on this amazing conversation today is Melissa. Melissa is my road dog on Instagram. She's always there every time I go live. Melissa, we love you so much. Mel, talk to us. Who are you and why did you decide to come on this show today? We only have 1 hour.
I am a mom to two teens. I have a cisgender daughter and a gender fluid teen that uses they them pronouns. So we definitely have a very mixed environment. And then on top of that, which I feel like this is important to say, is my kids are biracial. So there's a lot of things that they deal with that like your average teen doesn't necessarily face.
All right. What about you, Ellen? Ellen is a repeat offender, y'all. And I love that so much. And yes, I use the word offender, obviously, tongue in cheek, but this is so beautiful because Ellen joined us for the first time last week. And we had such an amazing conversation. One of the co-hosts who is not here today, Chelsea, was sending her so many flowers. Chelsea's getting glammed up for going to the UK for, doing what beauty queens do. But Ellen was here, and Ellen does not give a fuck, y'all. Y'all know we talk about that on this show. Ellen, tell the people what's up and how. What are you doing trying to be part of this? Let me see if I can find. We're trying to. Oh, it says that their mic isn't connected. Yeah. Okay, that's what it is. Okay, well. Laurie, sorry about that, but it says your mic is not connected. I'm going to remove Laurie. Sorry about that. This show is live. If you ever thought, is it live? It's live. So things happen during the show. But Ellen, why did you decide to come the first day and you didn't have enough of us? You're back this week. What's up with that?
I will say it again. I am so honored and humbled that you have invited me to this platform. It's a very important one. Um, and Melissa and I have something in common. We both have mixed race children, and we both have children that fall into a category somewhere under the rainbow umbrella. I have a 22-year-old. And Kim, you said you're a 23-year-old?
Yeah, mine's turning 23 this week,
When this week, might I ask?
the 9th.
My birthday is August 8th.
Yes.
I love me some Leos.
So you have a strong individual on your hands.
Oh, you don't have to tell me that.
But
I learned a lot.
But these conversations are so important, and it's so good to connect to other moms and sharing this level of education. And I think it's important, and it's so necessary to have this dialogue so that we can continue to peel back these layers and educate people and educate so many, and just support our trans kids.
I love the phrase peel back layers. And so let's see if we can get Laurie, can you hear us now? Can you say something? Laurie? Yeah. Laurie going once? Hmm. All right, so like I said, the show is live. We're trying to get Laurie to join us, and she's frozen, so I don't know if she can hear us at all. But talking about peeling back layers, Kimmy, yesterday I showed you a message from a mom who was sending flowers to, for lack of a better thing to say today, who just found out that her child is in the LGBT community and is so distressed that there are many, many, many things going on, and she is specifically um, really mentally challenged. So, Kimmy, how did you, if you want to say that, how did you peel back your own layers when not one but two children share that they're gender diverse? And we're talking about a child who's not necessarily gender diverse in this mom's case, but in your case, I really think that, a child being gender diverse is the next level up from sexually diverse. Not because both of them don't get, hate from the world today, but I feel like gender diverse kids just really truly get the worst kind of hate. Kimmy, how did you peel your layers when not one but two kids were sharing with you what was going on with them?
Yeah, layers there are, that's for sure. I think I was okay, when my oldest approached me and said, I think I'm bi and I think I'm gay. And it didn't really change my world all that much because, for me and my background, and this is why the journey is different for every single kiddo, is my background is very different from all of yours, and we were not brought up around a lot of diversity, but we were also a very accepting and loving family. So, the base was good. Um, but when your kiddo comes to you and as mine did, as my Leo, who knows it all before they even come to me, they help you peel back those layers. But it really takes being willing to have an open conversation and listening to learn rather than to educate. I mean, they will teach you the basics on what is applicable now. But I'm telling you that when they first start at certainly 11, 12 years old, a lot's going to change over time. And you're going to have to just kind of listen to them and know that they are letting you know who they are. And then you have a decision to make whether or not you want to be a part and an influence in their life and how they handle adversity. You can coach them, you parent them the same as you parent any other kid. I mean, it's really not that different. There are some added layers of challenges that you'll run into one at a time, but there's so many professionals out there now that know, that have been talking to parents, that have been learning. There are so many resources now than there was for me 10 years ago, and I still got all the information I needed, so it's out there if you're willing to support your kid the way that I think parents should.
Amen. I wanted to mention a couple of things. I like listen to learn and not listen to educate. Melissa or Laurie, I don't know if you can, Laurie, can you say a word or two so we can hear? Can you speak now?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, sorry, I had to go to my phone. We couldn't figure out what was going on with my laptop. So sorry about that, ladies.
Okay. So Laurie, I'll come to you in a second to do a quick introduction and tell us why you came on the show, but also you can answer this question that we're asking now. So Kimmy mentioned a good point, listen to learn and not listen to educate. And the fact that I always say for parents, you're not only the most important, you're also the most influential person in your child's life. So Melissa, Ellen, or Laurie, who wants to take that and just kind of run with it? What are your thoughts about listening to learn versus listening to educate? Melissa.
I guess for me, I did a lot of listening to learn with my kid. We were in a much different place than we are now. Very conservative, religious lifestyle. So I just let my kids speak and educate me, or not really educate me, that's not really the word, but share with me who they were as a person and the journey that they were starting to embark on.
So it's interesting that you mentioned share with me, because my kid actually told me, she said, Mom, we're not coming out. Nobody's coming out to anybody. We can invite you in, or if you act right, we'll share with you. So that's what my child said. And I just thought that was so cool that you mentioned that versus coming out. But I definitely agree with listening to learn. I think my kid educated me. First of all, she's Stanford trained. But even if you remove that, she definitely teaches me every single day, all day, every day. She taught me and she's teaching me. So I am in team learning, listening to learn. What about you, Ellen or Laurie? Ellen, go first.
Listening to learn, and also one thing that I use a lot, just across many platforms, is seeking to understand. Stephen Covey, and that was embedded, just in my practice and being in education, working with hundreds of children and families and educators on both sides as a teacher and a school administrator. But seeking to understand is really important, and it runs very much parallel to listen to learn. And I think that is, we are, the Gen Zers, which is where my son falls, is really teaching a lot of the Gen Xers, which is where I fall. And there's this, there's so many things, the intersectionality of just what we bring as a Gen Xer and what Gen Zers bring. There's so many lessons. And I think I mentioned before in the last podcast, Dr. Lulu, to reframe, reprogram our thinking and what we've learned, and progressive forward thinking, in order to embrace what comes after us, who comes after us. So, it's really important to really have that open mindset.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'm hearing open-minded. Melissa, open-minded. Melissa mentioned they used to be at they are at a much different place now. So they used to be conservative, religious. And I wanted to go there after Laurie speaks, because I want to talk. I love that you brought that up, Melissa, because indeed we have a lot of parents, enough parents in the world who are finding themselves also in a conservative, very religious space, but their kids are also queer. So we'll talk about that when we come back from Lori. So Lori, brief introduction, and why did you decide to come on the show? And then if you want to talk to us a little bit about listening and learning, or just a little bit about you and who you are, period.
Yeah, hello everyone. My name is Lori Jones, and I currently live in Oklahoma, where I've been 10 years now. Our oldest is turning 30 on August 8th, and he is our transgender child. And
Lori, you have something in common because my birthday is August 8th.
Yes,
I heard that when I heard that with all my technical difficulties. Oh my gosh, that was hard. So I've learned a lot from my son over the years. I'm very thankful for him. In my eyes, I've got the best of both worlds. I had Gabriella for the first 18, 19 years. And now since then, leading up to 30, now I have Gabe. And Gabe is way different than who Gabriella was. I have people come and ask me questions all the time, and I tell them, well, I feel more comfortable, just reach out to my son because he's going to teach you more than I can. I'm not here to educate. I'm here to advocate for him and to just be his solid supporter from start to finish. And if they bring questions more parental wise, I try to answer those as much as I can, but I also remind them that everybody's way of thinking and acceptance and understanding is way different. So while my journey to learning and embracing our son is different than the next person next to me. So I try not to go deep in that rabbit hole. And I just tell them that every day is a learning experience for me as a parent. And for those hard questions, sometimes I even reach back out to him. And I encourage anybody that has questions to reach out on his social media platforms. He is an educator as well. He's a high school math teacher. And he lives we're from Wichita, Kansas, red state, but the governor has done great things up there for our LGBTQ plus community in the state of Kansas, where, he's been able to change his name, change his birth certificate, gender, and do all of those things. And Wichita Public Schools has backed him 1,000% all these years that he's been a teacher. So, yep.
Wow. I just okay. Phew, where do I start? I love that Wichita, Kansas is doing something. I do love that you officially have the oldest child, because my kid is 26 and usually my kid is the oldest. So this is so cool that you have the oldest child. Maybe I can learn a thing or two from you. I absolutely love seeking to understand. But before we come there, Lori and Melissa, both of you are going to have to school us. How did you peel back the layers? How are you thriving? Melissa, religious, conservative. You, Oklahoma, what? Okay, so who wants to go first? Because what I want for this show is to showcase parents living in all these places and still affirming their kids. Because the things I get on my inbox are things like, oh, well, so I have bad memories, so I'm not able to remember my child's pronouns. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. So I'll go first. I'll be the first to say I feel like I have a lot in common with Melissa. When we first found out that when Gabe was a female, before he identified, he calls it his dead name, Gabby. That's what he calls it. And I found out just by checking a blog in his English class in high school, and I put all he had in there was initials. And so being the secretary at that time, I investigated and it was a female. So he was in a lesbian relationship at that time. And I can tell you, I did not embrace that well at all. I was married to a detective at that time who really frowned upon it. So that's where my mistake was, is I allowed the person I was married to at that time influence my thought process. And I pretty much did all the things that I hear parents trying to do now, because it's out of fear. It's fear. It's the unknown. And instead of just sitting back and talking to Gabe back then, I just ran the person I was with at that time. And it was rough. It was rough, and it shouldn't have been that way. Had I just taken a step back and listened to Gabe versus listening to the person that was shaming what was going on because of their occupation at that time. So it took a couple of years before I had finally just stepped back and said, look, this is my kid, take it or leave it, no matter what he decides to do. And it's not for you, as long as he understands and knows who he is, then all I ask is for you to be cordial. You don't even have to accept it, because I feel like if back then when I would say that, then people felt pressured to believe in my thought process and backing up Gabe at that time. So yeah, it was rough for he and I for the first 2 or 3 years when he, when we found out and everything. So, but the last 10 years or so, I've been his biggest cheerleader, his biggest supporter. I'm quick to defend. And because we do have family, I have family that still calls him Gabby, still uses she. So I've had to have that conversation with him too. You can't change who they are, but they still love you. And he's learned, if I'm talking to them, well, Gabby was here and she did this. I said, oh, Gabe was there. Oh, I'm glad you got to see him. So I'm quick to just back that up for him versus, falling on that side, because he's my son and he has done great things, won, awards for how he just is an advocate for the community up in Wichita.
I love you. Can we just give a round of applause to you, because that was so beautiful. And I think we every parent in this space had their journey, and my work is to hold space for the journey. But my better work is to shorten the duration or the length of that journey. Every single parent I've met has had some journey. I think Kimmy had the shortest journey of all the parents that I've ever met. But a journey nonetheless. And
No,
what we're
it's
trying
all
to say is, I'm sorry, what we're trying to say is you don't have to wait X amount of duration of time. Laurie, I'm like you, my ex-husband, just like me, raised Nigerian, homophobic as fuck, right? But I'm glad that you came to terms with the fact, wait, this is my kid. Wait, hold on. You can't misname them, you cannot misgender them, and nothing is going to happen to you if you try to say the right name and try to use the right pronouns. I just love the advocacy here. And you mentioned not here to educate, here to advocate. So powerful. I thought that was a cool quote, and I'm going to say that for sure. And I also like that you mentioned lesbian relationship before, because one of the things I'm going to do one day is gather all my trans masks together and have that conversation with them, and then gather some lesbians together and ask them the question that I have in my head. I'm not going to say the question, but I have that question and I've been wanting to ask it. But thank you so much for joining the show, for getting the audio fixed and being able to say that. I was going to ask about the dead naming really quickly, about how does it feel about being called Gabby by some people. My friend, Dr. Elijah, says to me, I actually don't mind people sometimes calling me by my old name, which is Tasha. And he says, I'm very gentle with them, and I just very gently correct them, because Tasha, I do not look anything like, he's completely bald now. Tasha had beautiful long black hair. I mean, all the things that we don't look alike, we're not the same person. But he says he's, as a reverend, as a pastor, he understands how people may struggle with that. But I know my kid doesn't want to hear, if you use the dead name, you are out. So let's talk about that really quickly. Ellen, Melissa, Kimmy, weigh in on this. How are your kids doing with regards to using the dead names? And I want to give a shout out to Professor Ezenekwe. Welcome to the show, joining us from South Carolina. Thank you so much for joining the show. I appreciate it. You are Nigerian, so nice to meet you, my Nigerian sister. Or at least your last name is. So Kimmy, Ellen, Melissa, what are your thoughts about this situation here?
So I'm going to jump in and say that I'm fortunate because Nico has not his former name that I gave him, gifted him at birth. He has incorporated that into his legal name. Nico did not have any ties to his name, who he once was called, that came with any negative connotation. It didn't come with a psychological bruising. It didn't come with a journey of him wanting to separate from that part of his journey, his coming to being, if you will. So his name that I chose for him at birth was an old Egyptian name, so it had a meaning of woman of high self-esteem. So he carries that in honor because that is how he connects to who that part of his journey was at that time. So he's incorporated that into his legal existence, which I was so honored that he did. That had no parts of me, influencing or saying hey or laying on any type of guilt. He just honors who he is and who he has been as a once a female, if you will.
Yeah.
But I wanted to speak to something that Lori said, and when I have these conversations about in a cis hetero space, and people have some challenges with calling Nico by his preferred names, pronouns, what have you, I give them a quick analogy of marriage. When you married someone, you changed your last name. And you wanted us to honor that and call you that name that you took on, and that we were respectful to make sure that that was a part of your union. It was respecting your journey and moving into this new life with someone else. It's the same thing. So when Lori had mentioned about advocating, that is something that as moms, we all do. But unfortunately, I find myself in the Black space educating and advocating, because advocating is sometimes not enough. It still comes with the ignorance, and it comes with the hatred, and it comes with so much of these external stressors that it compels you to have to moving into this space of educating and bringing information and facts.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great analogy. We use that a lot on this show. I never changed my name after I got married, but I definitely know that Mrs. Brown, who becomes Mrs. Blue, is so happy to become Mrs. Blue. And we will correct you when you go back to Mrs. Brown. So, yeah, absolutely. Melissa, Kimmy, what y'all want to weigh in? Thank you so much, Ellen. So good, so good.
I think on dead names, it really is all about the dialogue with your kids, because I know with my oldest, I mean, they picked a name, they stuck with it, they knew who they were right away. So I didn't really have to play with names so much. The getting used to it part, that was something that a lot of the family struggled with. Certainly the school system struggled with it, and doctors' offices. And so it is a lot of work. It's a lot of work to keep up on. I think teaching our kids at a young age, having some grace for people that mean well, and let them know they don't have to have grace that people that don't mean well. I mean, you're teaching them how to maneuver the life in the skin that they're in, and in the mindset that they're in right now. So, my oldest, changed their name after their given name 3 times. And you know what? Their pronouns changed just as many times. And it was confusing. It was hard. I still, I think right now we're at a landing place in a maturity level to where any pronouns are okay. They are gender fluid. non-binary. You know, they feel a certain way one day, they feel a certain day the next day. You know, they're pretty much of the mindset now that just whatever feels right that day, that's fine. And that's good. I'm glad they're finally there, because we did have to work through some of those. That's not my, you know, but you know, that's teenagers too. You know, you're always going to have the little sassy attitudes, you know, that come with the hormones. And then, you know, just try to show them some grace, remind them to show you some grace. And you get through it. Change the name in your phone for sure.
Yeah,
I have it in
Oh,
all caps.
we could do a whole class about how to, and if we have time, we might do that. The bottom of the hour, the show is called Moms, the number 4 trans kids. A couple of things I want you all to do. I want to give a big shout out to Danielle Bonanno on Instagram, who say, "Hi, Dr. Lulu." So Danielle is like my soul sister over here in Atlanta, Georgia, a trans woman of excellence as far as I'm concerned. Danielle, I want to give you a big shout out also for listening to me about my nonprofit earlier today when I was like, "Oh my God, guess what? About my nonprofit." And then she's like, "What?" And then Danielle is going to help me has actually found me a realtor who is also trans, who's going to help me with my nonprofit. So Danielle, thank you so much for coming on the show. And thank you for listening to us. If y'all have any questions for these moms, we are here together. You've got 5 moms of trans kids, gender diverse kids who are in the space, who can answer your questions, who can field your feelings for you, because I mean, it's what we've all kind of been through. So if you have any questions, please ask them on Facebook, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, and wherever else great podcasts are listened to and heard. And if you have any comments, you can send us an email at momsfortranskids@gmail.com. All right, so my name is Dr. Lulu, and let's go on. I wanted to talk to Melissa a little bit about what we're talking about right now with regards to dead naming and or not dead naming, and what, if any, has that been an issue for your kid? I love that Kimmy's 2 children have 2, polar paths. One relatively easier, and one changes their name, based on the weather. And this is so important for parents to understand that when you're making a big. Kimmy, remember when we were at Creating Change conference, we had that mom who was really upset that her child changed her name.
Yeah.
And she made such a big fuss.
Wow.
She said, "Oh my God, they went through ups and downs to Italy and to Europe to find the name and what the name meant to them and all the things, and how dare you change it?" And then the kid was like, "But the name is not me." And it's important for parents to understand that, yeah, we all think about, my kid's name means my father has returned. So that there's no further name from the child who is a princess, who calls herself a princess. My father did not return as a princess. And so I totally hold space for her to choose a name that she felt fits more with who she is. And that's my take on that. But Melissa, what do you think? What's your take on that?
For us, my kiddo is 14. It's been a couple of years journey, but dead naming was a huge issue in the beginning. Through mental health services that they've had, they've gotten to a place where with certain people, they're getting comfortable with, "Please don't call me that. Please call me this." So there's definitely been a lot of growth. But even me as a parent, like when I have to call their doctor's office, and they're great about using their chosen name, but when I have to bring up their legal name, like it makes me cringe because I know that they're not that person anymore, and I hate saying it.
This is so interesting, Melissa, because this is actually something that has happened to me. I have become Dr. Lulu, and Dr. Lulu has become me. My father calls me Dr. Lulu. Obviously, not obviously, it doesn't matter, but I wasn't named Dr. Lulu. For those who do not know, Lulu actually spelled my initials, okay? The first L was my phase of thinking I was a lesbian. So I put that L there to remind me of my sexuality and its journey. But ULU are my bona fide initials. I just got hired by Kaiser Permanente in my government name. But do you know, I was quick to say, No, but actually, please call me Dr. Lulu. And everyone's like, sure. And I don't even want to be called Dr. Ume anymore. And I'm not even trans. So I definitely, I get it when when a name actually causes dysphoria. And it looks like, Melissa, you're getting dysphoria on behalf of your kid. This is what we said.
Yeah.
That's not who they are anymore. This is so important that we should hold space for Mrs. Brown. Used to be Mrs. Blue used to be Miss Brown, and it's now Mrs. Blue. So of course that's not who she used to be. And I think it's important that, and if she decides to get a divorce and go back to Miss Brown, great, because gender fluid kids can change their name. And I think this is just stressing that, what are you making the name change mean? Because
Yeah.
that's where the struggle is. And so let's change a little bit to one thing that I wanted to discuss. I love how Laurie, you said I had to learn to listen to Gabe. Can we talk about this a little bit, about how the need to listen to our kids, and how have we, all of us in here, changed or not changed by simply learning the art of listening? And I think Kimmy touched on that a little bit. I don't know, anybody who wants to go first and just talk about it. If there's anything else that y'all want to talk about, please bring up the topic and let's talk about it, because this show is for all of us. I just guide a little bit, but yeah, y'all, if there's anything else you want to talk about, let's talk about it. But I want to talk about this need to listen to our kids and how important it is. Kimmy, you want to go?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, that goes through a parent's head when they get information like this, whether it be I'm gay or I'm trans. It really is, first of all, are you sure? Because I've known you your whole life. Don't say that. Don't say that stuff. I mean, these kids have probably been reeling in stress to even approach you about it, and to say, are you sure, or have any other invalidating statements. It's a crucial time to try to stay away from those. And I want y'all to know that words matter. They really do matter.
Yep.
The dead names, the mispronouns and things like that, even accidentally, it still hurts, but they try to push through. So there's always effort in trying to accept or trying to work through any kind of dead naming or mispronouncing. But, you got to remember the maturity level will follow the age, right? So they're going to handle it like an 11-year-old if they're 11, and they're going to handle it like a 17-year-old when they're 17.
Yeah.
But, teaching them grace along the way is the biggest thing. But trust them, because the biggest thing, that's the other thing they are coming to you because they need somebody to trust in them. And they don't know who to go to other than their friends. So they're coming to one parent. They're coming to one parent first. They're probably not going to sit you both down and talk to you. So they're going to come to one first. And if the other one isn't accepting, Dr. Lulu, I know you have the stats, but I think it's important to refresh everybody's memory about how important it is that even just one parent is supporting.
All day. So the statistics are that suicide rates in gender non-conforming children go from a high 79% to a very low 4% if one parent is affirming, or rather, should I say, when one parent is affirming. So this is going out. Kimmy, thank you for bringing that up. This is going out to any parent out there who feels that you need your spouse to support you before you can support them. Truly, just one parent supporting the child is all it takes. Really, in this case, one adult supporting the child. I'm talking about support. I want to give a shout out to Jade, Lanoa, LaDuff. Thank you so much for joining us. Jade is a beautiful transgender human being that I met last year at the Black Trans Advocacy Coalition conference, who says, happy Sunday to you all. Thank you so much for being amazing parents and loving your kiddos. As a trans adult and auntie to the transgender non-conforming babies, I love y'all for loving them. Thank you so much. We love you, sis. We absolutely love you. And Jade is coming on the show someday soon, right, Jade? But that's how I recruit my people, honey. If you say one good thing, I'll rope you in. And so, but yeah, so coming back to the show, is there anything else that y'all want to add? Because this is so important, talking about listening to our kids, listening some more to our kids. Go ahead.
There's something I want to add to that.
Yes.
We've gotten to a place that I really stress, not only for my kid, but myself too, the importance of like protecting your mental health in your space, like your safe bubble per se. Giving them, yes, they're 14, yes, they're a minor, but they're still a person, and it's not my job to control who they are as an individual. So if they don't feel safe around certain people or their anxiety's high, so going to a family gathering may not be the best decision for them to make. They have the right not to go. Like forcing your kids into those unsafe spaces where they may feel threatened is just not the right thing.
Yes, it's about safety. And then talking about safety, let me tell you all a story. This morning, me being 55 years young and all, I had a phone call with one of the guys that as you all know, I'm back, testing the waters of dating. And, he wanted to go on a date today. And I was like, yeah, sure. There's this event later today where, there's going to be a bunch of people. So I said, if you'd like to meet me there. So even at 55, and I'm not trying to say about age, but I'm just saying even at 55, even as adults, safety first. So if I told myself, look, you come to the place, that way I'm around people that I know, you are also safe because you don't know who I am, but safety first. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go there. We're going to meet there. And then if you don't like me and I don't like you, nobody gets hurt, but at least I feel safe. So thank you so much for stressing the fact that, yes, it's about safety. And Kimmy, you're right about your kids will truly only invite you in if they feel safe. And that means they might feel safer with one parent and not the other. And it's not for you to start wondering about it doesn't matter. If they feel safe telling you and inviting you in, embrace it, because very, very quickly, if you don't play your cards right, you will know. Your kid will stop telling you things. And yes.
Right.
So does anybody else want to share, either Laurie or Ellen, about this whole safety thing and listening to your kids.com? And Jade, I see you say you're going to come on the show. So thank you so much. All right, Ellen or Laurie?
I think, I'm always going to put things in place to make sure that, Nico, my son, has people that are going to look out for just his best interest, but also to make sure that they are going to support him as a trans person, because we know that some of those things comes to existence when they're socializing, when they're out and about, depending on where they are. So, as he's 22, he is definitely navigating through this because, Nico came out as trans at 18. So I call him my 18 plus 4. The journey has been, he's a 4-year-old in a sense, because he is relearning himself in this journey. He's going through a second puberty, and so all of these things have been happening. But what I will also say is that the level of discernment at his age, at 18 or 19, came at definitely high rates of him jeopardizing his safety because he was trying to find his tribe. And in finding his tribe and doing so, those people that he came across didn't necessarily have his best interests at mind, didn't necessarily have or thinking about, we're going to kind of, take you under our wing, because they were other young trans individuals who are still trying to find their way, which, created this dynamic of him being in a very compromised situation. that where he was taken advantage of. My son is a DJ. He at the end of it all, when he was almost out of consciousness, they stole his things. It was a nightmare. And so thank goodness he is here to, share that story and getting other young trans adults to understand that journey of what it means when you're finding your tribe. And I share with him, listen, I'm not a trans person, I'm a gay woman. But however, I practice discernment, and everybody is not my friend. Everybody doesn't have this level of wanting me to thrive and be successful and wanting me to have these opportunities to greatness. Everyone doesn't want that for me. And sometimes they do come in the queer community, unfortunately, but they come in cis hetero communities. They come in all communities. So it was just a real world lesson for him, and a very very much a societal lesson for him, in knowing that no matter how you move about, you have to move with discernment, but you have to definitely move with that a lot more when you are in the queer community.
Yeah, I love that because as a Black child, period, his safety is on the line.
Yes.
And this came up yesterday at the airport when I was coming back from Palm Springs, and the gentleman at the counter, I told him to show me how to work the computer to buy an apple and an orange. And then we were talking about the Olympics, and I said, oh my God, if Noah is going to be running, I'm going to start screaming because I'm going to get so excited. And then he said, oh, if you start screaming, I'll call the police. And he said, oh, don't start screaming so I don't have to call the police. And he was laughing as he was saying it. And I said, you could say such a joke to any other color person, if I may use those words, to a Black woman, it's not funny. Because I can be in my house and call the police to come and check something, and then I'll be killed. So he right away received and said, oh my God, I'm so sorry. You know what? I wasn't thinking. He now became so sorry. I said, no, it's okay. But you're right. He was a joke in his mind. But as a Black person, as a person of color, period, which is kind of all of our kids here are people of color. Everybody's child in this show right now are all people of color. So we have to be very careful that much more because we're already people of color. I happened to meet Matthew Shepard's parents in Palm Springs, and they were so happy to see me. So they were blessing me, and they gave me a big bag of purple things, little things with Matthew Shepard's name on it. But Matthew Shepard wasn't even a child of color. So we have to be very careful that a child that's just othered, their life is at stake, and that's all of our kids. Laurie, I know you said you had to leave early. Did you want to say something and maybe summarize your thoughts, and then you can be on your way?
Yeah, and I'll try to be brief because this actually was a very long process that we went through. But 2 or 3 years ago,
You don't have to be brief, Laurie. We're good.
okay, 2 or 3 years ago, Gabe had reached out to me on a weekend, and he was really upset because he's learned, as he's gone through his 20s and transitioned and all of that. He no longer allows family to keep him out. He'll still show, because in his mind, your opinion of me or your beliefs are not going to keep me from being part of the family, which we all support him. His siblings support him. My now husband that I've been with, we just got married in May. So he has a supportive stepdad. But 2 or 3 years ago when he had called, he was upset. He goes to the Church of the Brethren up in Wichita, and started at that church family when he was in college. So then he was able, when he moved back to Wichita, he joined that same church. And he had been telling me that there were congregations, the people in the congregation were trying to get him out because they knew that he was really a female, and they felt threatened with him leading the Sunday school classes with the kids. So that started. He has got a very supportive minister there, very supportive pastor. But this particular Saturday morning we called, he's like, somebody is targeting me and it's on social media, Mom, and I don't know what to do. So another pastor that actually attended this church that my son went to, who was spreading and bleeding the negativity about Gabriel in the community, had taken his profile picture from his Facebook, copied it and put it on his and said, this is not Gabriel Abraham Padilla. This is really a woman, and his real name is Gabriella. And I was like, okay, what's his name? He's like, Mom. I said, who is it? Well, me being me, and that's the first time I've dealt with anything to this magnitude for Gabe, I was very professional and I was very matter of fact. I went and turned it on him and grabbed his name and Facebook page profile and I said, look, this gentleman is just basically starting a hate crime against our son.
Yes.
He is saying he's a minister, pastor with the Church of the Brethren. And I just basically went there and said, you know, if you have questions, asked. Don't judge. Don't throw my son under the bus, because guess what? His support system is bigger than he could imagine. So
Yes.
I still have that. It reminds me every year on my memories. Oh, this is what I said. You know, at the end of the day, I was like, you know, Gabe is who he is. Everybody that he meets, they love him, whether they agree or not. They are respectful. And that's what we need to teach them. We have to learn as parents. Had I not stopped years ago and started listening to him, we would not have a relationship to this day. But because it was so important, and it's allowed my other children, my other 3 that are under him, to be able to say, oh, I can go to Mom and talk about anything. Because I was a hardcore mom. That's how I was raised, you know. But Gabe has taught me so much. And I've softened up a little over the years as well. But needless to say, once all of that played out on social media, and I went and bit back at this pastor, the actual, I don't know exactly what the ranking is in you know, the church world, especially with the Church of the Brethren, but it had gone to the highest level, and he was no longer a pastor at that time, and hasn't been that I know of since then.
When you're talking about advocacy, that's advocacy. That's activism. I want to give you flowers. Really, I want to give all the moms flowers. Y'all have just filled my heart today. I'm just so happy. Just all the voices. I wish all of y'all can come back. Lori, what a beautiful story. I'm going to not hug the mic because I'm sure the other sisters, sister moms, Mama Beast want to say something to you. But y'all, we have 7 minutes on the clock. Who wants to give flowers to Lori? Lori, wow, way to go. Way to go. Yes. And this is why I want to say, when your kids are being bullied, don't, number one, if you're not safe, your kid would have never told you about that. So that's one.
Right.
But number 2, don't listen to them when they say, oh, Mom, don't do anything. No. Activate Mama Beast and let's go.
Oh, yeah.
No, kudos to you, Lori. Like, I love that story. And, you know, being in this space, it reminds me that, you know, my walk has to, in that situation, and hope that we have less of those things that we have to deal
Right.
with. But, you know, our kids have to go in these spaces, whether in business or in their professions, and all of these things that they have to endure, to help with their livelihood, to help with their independent living, and all of these other things. And I mentioned this to Lulu, but you know, I have a hard cutoff when it comes to family and friends. You know, I have to already be in this tolerant space in my profession, or just as a working person. I'd be damned if I'm gonna be in it in my social life.
That's right.
I'm not going to do that. Like, it's a non-negotiable. So there are times where, when I talk about boundaries, you know, with myself and Nico and how we show up, if there's one person that is in this space that is not on board, or that is creating this dynamic to reduce the individual who I birth, to reduce him as being a human being, we are not showing up.
When I have it,
Because Now, if there are people that are going to support us and say, hey, you need to cut this out, then I'm very okay with that. But unfortunately, we find ourselves with, particularly within these Black spaces, um, where the silence is such a complicit thing. This, oh, you'll be fine. No, don't be passive aggressive with me. We're not going to be fine. Everybody's just silent. Nobody's seeing this behavior. So now it has come to a point where now family are like, Ellen, when are you and Nico coming? And I'm like, we can show up.
Say the words, but we're there.
You're put on notice. You are.
Mhm.
Please know that.
Yeah.
So,
And this is so powerful because one of the things that came up this past week, for those of you who have not been listening to the Olympics, is the boxer from Algeria who happens to have been born with XY chromosomes. I think I know a little bit more about that now as a physician, obviously, probably most likely intersex. And one of the things that I know you all know, because I talk about this all the time, is intersex people tend to end up being reared as women. And so the person was raised as a woman and socialized as a female, and is in a female boxing tournament. And you're supposed to practice. This is what you do. If you're going to Olympics, you're not going to go to Olympics and say, "Oh, I'm not going to fight." No, you go fight. But unfortunately, these people have now made it all a transphobic situation because, oh, he's a man and he's not a man and he's a girl. And listen, my post today, I said, where were all of y'all when real cisgender men hit their wives, beat their girlfriends, kill their girlfriends? We are talking about two athletes here who have trained. All of a sudden, it's like, oh, I can't handle that. So kudos to you, and kudos to all of y'all for coming and just being badass mama beasts for your kids, because that's what we're doing. We're not going anywhere. For those of you who are listening, if you'd like to, please subscribe to the link to the YouTube, and we're at 600 and something. We would like to get to 1,000 before the end of the year. Please subscribe to the podcast on any platform where you listen to podcasts. I do have a book coming up. It's called Moms. It's not called Moms. It's called About Your Black Transgender Child. I'm so proud of it. And please listen out. We're supposed to be trying to do a conference sometime. I don't know when. But really, we're trying to get together and grow like an army. And so what Kim said at the beginning, that we're growing, I won't forget that, because once upon a time, I was like, I was going to not do the podcast. And Kim said, wait. Let me come on the show with Matthew. And let me see if you still want to not do the podcast. And that was over a year ago. So Kim, I love you. Thank you so much, Laurie, for coming. Thank you, Matt, for coming. Oh my God. Twin Ellen, thank you. Thank you all so much for just coming up and just showing out. Because that's what Mama Beasts do.
We do.
I hope you all decide to come again. I know Laurie has to jump and go, but everyone for listening, a bunch of y'all still on LinkedIn. We have 4 people watching. I want to give you all a shout out. Facebook, we have a bunch of people watching. I can't count the number of people on Instagram. All of y'all, thank you for watching. If nothing else, you're seeing moms of trans kids showing up for their kids. So that means that there are more. So if you know any other moms out there that would like to come on the show, tell them about the show. Share the show with them. Tell them about it. Let them hear that there are mothers out there who truly don't give a fuck. We'll see you every Sunday. Peace, love, and soul. Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Bye. Good.